Next on the tee from Brooklyn, New York, Jerry Ferrara. I think I'm going to try to do that for intros now. I'm in the spirit as the Masters is coming up. And we have Jerry Ferrara. You might know him from Entourage or Power or anywhere else in the acting and the golf space now, the golf YouTube world as well. We're going to get into that. Jerry could not have been more open with his stories. I'm so appreciative of his time because he told everything from what it was like shooting that famous scene with Tom Brady on Entourage, what it was like playing late nights on the golf simulator with Kevin Dillon back in their Entourage days in LA. He's got thoughts on the Ryder Cup coming to New York City next year, coming to Bethpage Black in 2025. He's got a lot of thoughts there. He's playing a lot of golf. He's playing in all these pro-am events. People want Jerry Ferrara right now, not just to act, but to play golf. So really, again, appreciate him stopping by. This was a fun one. Also, quick announcement, as you're going to hear at the end of this intro, my friend Jenny Kern, my former coworker, who is a musician based in New York City at Jenny Kern Music, we kind of had talked about her creating a theme music or an intro for us. And we now have our first bump for Eyes on Golf. You're going to hear that in just a moment. I told her I kind of wanted Billy Joel's Only the Good Die Young, the piano intro, some version of that specific to me that she could make her own. And she did that. And I think it's got a little bit of a Springsteen ballad to it also. So it's a Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel hybrid in a way, which I think embodies everything about me. So I appreciate Jenny doing that. Again, it's at Jenny Kern Music, JennyKernMusic. If you like what you hear, give her a follow. Coming up right now, it is Jerry Ferrara on Eyes on Golf. Coming into Eyes on Golf now, I will call actor and avid golfer Jerry Ferrara. Also, you probably know him from Entourage and Power, or maybe the golf videos that are popping up on the internet right now, Jerry. Maybe that's where, or from courtside at Madison Square Garden. Who knows where the people are coming in from to listen to Jerry?
Yeah, it's a weird existence, man. You could know me from Entourage or Power or some golf videos, or if you love the Knicks, or if you played 2K. There's many different ways you could know me. But I am happy to sit down and talk golf because golf's been such a big part of my life throughout the years. But now it's probably the biggest part of my life, which means I think it's just because I'm old and have kids now. And it's a great way to get a 5-hour break.
Well, you bring up 2K, and I just want to bring up to people listening, because we probably have people from my PGA Tour work and also people from my our NBA 2K League work, because we go all the way back really to 2018, the start of the NBA 2K League. I was helping with on the town side, on the media side, with the 2K League. What was your official title? Head scout?
Yeah, it was head scout and like creative consultant. This was before the 2K
for Knicks
League.
Gaming.
Yeah, for Knicks Gaming. This was before, I think by year 2 and 3, there were official GMs for each franchise. But this was even before that. And yeah, I just always appreciated how you covered the league like it was a true sport, because that's the easiest way to explain. Believe me, the millions of times I got asked, like, the 2K League, what is it? Just think about it as traditional basketball, except we're not playing on the court. We're playing it in the video game. And you always covered it as such. And I always appreciated the way you covered the league early on.
I appreciate that. That's what I always told people back then was, for this to work, you have to treat these players like they were professional athletes. And I always said, the stories that I heard from that first draft when guys were telling me, we could talk about Goofy was the Knicks first round pick that you made the big selection back then. And, I remember him telling me that he gave in his 2 weeks notice to the Amazon factory that he worked in.
Yeah.
And that was always, I thought, a cool story to tell. But that was back in our separate days in esports. And you've watched me, or hopefully been able to watch me blossom into a golf broadcaster over the years. And we had some talks back then. You were living in New York at the time about golf. But I want to go back, young Jerry Ferrara, growing up in Brooklyn. how does a Brooklyn kid get interested in golf? Or the better question maybe is, when does that kid get interested in golf?
So it's funny, I'm 44 years old now. So when I was growing up in the 90s in Brooklyn, and if you really think about golf in the 90s, right? It's pre-Tiger Woods for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. He was a junior golfer. So I wasn't into golf at all. My uncles played and they were always begging me to put the basketball down and put the football down. You're going to be 5 foot nothing. At least with golf, you could play golf for your entire life. And if nothing else, you could do some business on the golf course. They always looked at it back then as a great way to, make relationships and do business,
Mm-hmm.
which I still think is true today because most people don't say no to a round of golf if they really
Yeah.
love it. But no, I never played golf as a kid. It wasn't until, I go to like the driving range. It wasn't until, I moved to LA when I was 20 and we started doing Entourage. The first scene we ever shot of Entourage, the first take in the history of Entourage was me hitting golf balls off the roof. That was scene one, take one, Entourage, the pilot, go. I think even at one point I had like the glove on the wrong hand, right? I didn't know anything about golf. And hit some balls. The scene was fine. My swing looked terrible. And I didn't think about playing after that. It wasn't until I think it was like maybe season 3, we had a golf simulator, a full swing golf simulator put in the house, in Vincent Chase's house. And you're on set for 15 hours a day, right? There's a lot of downtime. So instead of running back to our trailers, we started playing on the simulator. And Kevin Dillon, who played Johnny Drama, single digit handicap, family history belonging to Winged Foot. His dad, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, was the golf coach at Fordham University. So long family history. He was the person who really got me into it. And we started playing on this simulator. Then we started playing like a par 3 course out in LA. And before you know it, I'm joining country clubs and just like every chance I get, I'm trying to play.
You got the bug pretty fast, is what it sounds like.
Yeah,
And obviously, Kevin and I have a connection. We both went to Mamaroneck High School.
that's right.
Kevin and Matt are two of the most famous alumni. I grew up, right down the street from Wingfoot, and I didn't even really know that until the Fordham stuff, until I was
Yeah.
researching this podcast about Kevin and, I mean, specifically Kevin, but Kevin and Matt's dad. So, what did Kevin take me through? You guys are working together. You guys are getting to know each other. Is he pulling you into golf foursomes that maybe you didn't think you were ready for, or is he pulling you on the course at times, throwing you out there?
So no, he really handled me well. He's so positive, and I think this is a great way to be for anyone starting golf because when you start, you're obviously going to be such trash. And if you're a good golfer, if you're like at the time, I think Kevin might have been like a 7 or an 8 handicap, and then you're playing with this kid who has only swung 100 times. Like I'm sure he was a little, not, a little bit of a bummer, but he didn't pull me into foursomes right away. But what ended up happening was he ended up getting a full swing golf simulator at his house. So again, it all comes back to the sim, which is weird because you live in LA when you can golf all year round. But we had many late nights, me and him battling on St. Andrews over beers and cigarettes and cigars in his garage setup. I mean, I'm talking, we'd start at 8 o'clock at night. Our girlfriends at the time would be in the house and we'd battle till 4 a.m. So it had a video game feel to me early on, which I also think helped because I'm such a video game guy. The minute though, I think when I was with him, I played my first money match. I think they gave me like 25 shots. And I ended up contributing to a few holes too. That really got me going. But Dylan was so positive with a scrub golfer just starting. He really did a lot for me early on.
I guess with that, how close were you guys? People see the drama turtle relationship and wonder what that was like off the set. That sounds like, you guys, your relationship when the cameras were off, it didn't end right there.
It never did. A lot of things that get said to me over the years are like, oh, you guys look like you're having so much fun on set. And of course we were, but it is also a lot of hard work. Like I said, you're doing the same scene for 12 hours. Like sometimes you lose it a little bit. But yeah, Kevin Dillon is my big brother in a lot of ways. Cause I also had a front row seat to the world discovering just how comedically genius he was. Everyone knows Kevin Dillon from Platoon and The Doors and The Blob and all this great dramatic kind of Oscar stuff. And then he comes on and does this comedy and gets nominated for a ton of Emmys. So we were just working together a lot but golf really was the thing we had a lot of other things in common, New York, stuff like that. But golf really was the thing that took our level of like, we're good work friends to like, there's a brotherhood here.
When I was in journalism school, we had to watch Gone in the Night, which was a TV movie that Kevin's, it was a 190-minute TV movie that Kevin starred in.
He's had an unbelievable career. He's still going strong. And I think he's still a single digit handicap.
We can look that up. But I do want to, I think we've kind of teased talking about some Entourage scenes right here. You mentioned hitting off the house, or I don't know if it was hitting off the backyard, if it was hitting into the Hollywood Hills. There's a lot of question marks around, like you mentioned, the pilot. You're wearing, I believe, a Jason Giambi Yankees blue warm-up jersey.
Yeah.
It could have been Girardi. It was 25. Jeans and Tim's hitting golf balls off the roof. I didn't realize this until I researched it. It wasn't just the pilot. You guys hit off the roof in another episode as well. Once you're talking, drama talks about Pierce Brosnan. Once you guys talk about hitting Tobey Maguire's house. How real were you actually hitting golf balls into Hollywood? How did that scene all develop?
So yeah, and I think that scene all developed because I do think that might have been a Wahlberg thing. Mark's obviously an avid golfer, and I think that's also why golf was a presence on the show, because I think Mark was well into his golf journey. But yeah, I think not that he was hitting house balls into the hills, but I think he had a really good golf setup from, I think, like one of his many balconies that he probably had, hitting it to almost like a par 3. So we were recreating that in this amazing house in the Hollywood Hills that had this like back patio. But we were hitting balls, but we were hitting like little plastic wiffle balls. So they weren't going very, very far. And this was long before really good CGI. So if you really look, you never quite see the ball hitting into a house. But that's something Doug Ellen, the show creator, latched on. He just thought that, and like you said, me in a Yankee jersey and Tim's, like these guys are living a life they shouldn't be living. And I think golf back then was maybe viewed as that. And now it's obviously changed so much. But yeah, there's so many great golf things and scenes that have come up on Entourage over the years.
Yeah, Drama hits the first ball off the toe, and he says he still got it 300 out there off the toe.
3 bones plus, and that was off the toe.
And I think you said did you say that was the first scene that was filmed?
That was the first day of shooting the pilot. We all got cast in the show. We did a bunch of read-throughs, rehearsals, and then day one, scene 1 was that scene.
And I know, so then the second time you guys hit off the roof, you talk about hitting at Tobey Maguire's house. Do you remember, was there any conversation? Why Tobey Maguire?
I don't remember if there was conversation. Obviously, Kevin Connolly and Tobey Maguire were really, were really good friends. I think Doug was probably just trying to establish that this house in the hill, like Vincent Chase lives among the stars. And that was, the height of Spider-Man and all that stuff. And I do think it's pretty cool that, 2-3 years later, Aquaman's trying to beat the Spider-Man box office record, right? And it really helped create that world, which we were blurring the lines between real and fake, right? This fake movie star who happens to live next to Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire comes up and Spider-Man comes up a couple of times. I even think Ari sitting courtside is like, there's Batman, there's Spider-Man, there's the Joker. Yeah. They all got one thing in common. They're rich.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire is the first rival to Vincent Chase. You could basically say that Doug scripted that in. Second golf scene I want to talk about is the simulator that you talked about. Now you see golf simulators all the time. This was almost 20 years ago. Jeez. I remember as a kid seeing you guys hitting in the golf simulator and thinking like, this is what, when I'm rich one day, I want to put a golf simulator in my house like these guys. And that felt like something that everyone could watch at the time and feel like, all right, this is, again, like you said, these guys have money. They live a special life. This is something different.
Yeah, again, I didn't even know those things existed. And that, like I said, that was really what got me into golf. And funny story with that simulator, that exact one you see us hitting into in between takes, Kevin Connolly from like 115 yards, hole in one. And Kevin wasn't golfing Kevin had golfed before, but had no interest in golf. We were just messing around. He aced the hole. And then, I remember thinking, wow, this would be so cool to have in your house. And who really has the money to do this? But as we've seen now in the last 20 years, They still are super expensive, but there's versions now you can get that are a little more affordable, even though it's all still a lot of money.
Well, it sounded like Kevin Dillon had one back then when you
He
guys were
got one,
playing.
yeah. And I think, I don't know if he paid for it or what. I don't know how he worked out that deal, but he had a full swing golf simulator put into the garage of his house. And yeah, man, we just had duels out there. And I was, to this day, Jeff, this was so frustrating. I am now playing to probably about a 12 handicap, right? I could easily get single digits soon if I just put the work in. You put me on a simulator, I'm like a 4. I'll shoot 75 on the simulator with my eyes closed because I think it just looks like a video game to me. And perfect lies don't hurt.
We got to talk about Phil Mickelson. I know you did basically seek out Phil once. He was in an episode of Entourage, but it was really with Ari and Alan. And,
Yes.
It wasn't you guys, the core group was not in that scene. But were you on set that day or, were you able to meet Phil a different time?
So I'm going to give you the whole Phil Mickelson story because it is a good story. First bit of information you need to know is back to Kevin Dillon's dad. In addition to being, golf coach and all that stuff, he was a really good portrait painter. Kevin Dillon has a weird history of art. Like one of his uncles was a famous comic artist and stuff like that. He painted a portrait of Phil Mickelson in mid swing, but he painted him right-handed. But still found its way to Phil. And years later, Dillon got the chance to ask Phil. And Phil, I think he said it still like hangs in his house because it's such a funny conversation piece where people will walk in. It's like, hey, why are you swinging right-handed? So there's a relationship there. A year after that, the Ari character makes a joke about Phil Mickelson. And it might have been in the Yom Kippur episode where Ari says, oh, this kid's melting down like Mickelson at Winged Foot because we were only a year removed from the US Open at Winged Foot. So now we cut to a year after that. Kevin Dillon and I are playing out in San Diego. Might have been the Farm or the Bridges, somewhere out there in San Diego where Phil's a member of. And we're finishing and Phil's just showing up. And to Dillon's credit, he went right up to him, brought up the portrait thing. I think that's how we learned that Phil actually likes the painting and still has it. And then Dillon asked him, like, you want to be on the show? And Phil, I think, said, like, yeah, it was really cool. It's like my favorite show. But then one night, my wife and I are watching, and you guys took that cheap shot at me, but like laughed it off. And we called Doug Ellen right away. And Doug, to his credit, got to work on that script. And then, yes, me and Dillon, who were not in that episode, absolutely drove. That was shot at Trump National in LA. And we played golf because we had the whole course to ourselves. So Dillon and I were bouncing around holes, and then we even did play a few holes with Phil. I saw him hit because obviously Trump National is a beach course, ocean course, super windy. I saw Phil hit a 310-yard drive that was never higher than 15 yards high. And he started it out over the water. It just was one of the crazier shots I've ever seen in my life. And in one of the holes, we weren't really playing for money, but I think I had like a 11-foot par putt and he had like a 30-foot birdie putt, and he told me to pick it up. I'm like, why? You're basically giving us a half. I was like, no, I'm going to make the putt. Your par is good. And he sinks like a 30-foot side-winding downhill putt for birdie and wins the hole. So that was a dream. I mean, the situations we had with Entourage were crazy. And for some reason, athletes took to the show even more. You would think actors and maybe musicians. No, it was really athletes that took to the show.
Again, another formidable line for me as someone whose first golf event was going to the U.S. Open at Winged Foot in Mamaroneck, New York.
Really?
So
was that one?
It was that
Wow.
one. So that line meant something to me. And then the scene that everyone always wants to talk about is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, Mark Wahlberg on the set. I didn't realize this until recently. Neither of them were supposed to be there that day originally in the script.
No. That script was written because, and at this point, I always say, like, first year, 2 years, it was almost impossible to get cameos. Like, any cameos you see from Entourage in those first 2 years really are either friends of Mark's or Doug's or Steve Levitt. Like, there's a connection there because no one really knew what Entourage was yet. And everyone, I think we were really the one to kind of break the mold of it's okay to play a heightened version of yourself on a show. Like, you're in on the joke. We're not doing it to make fun of you. So at that point, when we did the golf episode with Brady, we were getting incoming calls now. Now there was requests to be on the show. And a big request came in from our, Peyton and Eli Manning. So I think that's what gave Doug the idea. Okay, Peyton and Eli, let's do brother versus brother. And this is also really where the charity golf tournaments picked up a lot of steam. You felt like every athlete and actor with a charity had a golf tournament. And he wrote that episode, and it was awesome. And it was the Chase brothers versus the Mannings. But then, like 2 weeks before, the Manning brothers had to back out. I don't know why. They never really gave a reason why. And it was a bummer. But also, not only are you disappointed, now it's like, okay, this could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars if we have to really redo this idea. And that's where having Wahlberg as your EP comes into credit, because he said, you want me to call Tom? And it's like, who you talking about? Tom Brady? Yeah, call him. And went outside, called him. He's like, he's in. And this was the year prior, Brady, was coming off that season-ending knee surgery against the Chiefs. So he hadn't been seen or heard from for a long time. And to his credit, he came on, was in on the joke, showed up at 5 a.m, piped the drive right down the middle. I almost want to say his golf game was better back then than what we saw at the match. I expected bigger things from the match because he just had such a pure swing, and he's a legit 6'5". So cool with the crew, and signed autographs for every crew member. And it just was not that he needs more acclaim or credit, but really bailed us out of what would have been a really bad jam,
Mark didn't call Matt Castle. His first call was to Tom Brady instead.
Well, it's like, who are you going to call? Wade Boggs? Who are we going to dust off? It could have been Wade Boggs for all we know, or it could have been Pedro could have been out there. Who knows?
Well, maybe Brady was sneaking around when he was rehabbing that ACL, playing golf when he, was supposed to be resting. But there's a lot to that scene. Also, I mean, you say 5 a.m. was when you guys started. I think people remember that because that was such a big producing on the golf course back then. And, you think about Turtle, even your character has to drive from hole to hole. What do you remember about setting that scene up and even talking to Brady on set right before?
Well, I always talk. I have told this story before quickly, but the famous line that always gets quoted to me is like, I'm going to tell Tom Brady sucks balls, right? And I don't take credit for that line. I don't think Doug does. We got that line from a friend of mine in Staten Island who we called up when he was rewriting the script and gave us that line. But
you just said, hey, what do you think of Tom Brady? And that was it.
I called my buddy Paul in Staten Island. I'm like, Paul, you see Tom Brady the night before the Super Bowl against the Giants in a bar. What do you say to him? He's like, I tell him he sucks balls. And we just like, thank you very much. Done. But then still, like, I'm just meeting the guy and I have to be super mean to him and brush him off. And again, just had a really good sense of humor. One fun fact, though, if you look at the first scene where Brady comes in, we're at the driving range and he goes to shake my hand and I turn my back on him. Yeah. If you look at Turtle's golf bag, he has Giants head covers. I think I have the line, notice the head. I stole those head covers and those are still on my driver in 3-wood to this day in my garage right now. Those are my head covers. They're 20 years old almost. They're 18 years old.
Do you know if those were purchased when they thought that Eli was coming?
Either or, because also my character was always a devout Giant fan. So it lined up for me. Doug Ellen and my sports teams lined up really well. And I think that's why. The only thing is he's a pretty big Islander fan. And I think that helped Kevin Connolly because Connolly's a big Islander guy.
Now in that scene, you've talked about this. Kevin Dillon claims that it was hard for him to hit that shot in front of Tom Brady.
It's so funny, right? Because you have to know Kevin to really appreciate this, but he's out there and he has to hit some bad shots or whatever. And he comes up to me. He's like, you're about to see a performance of a lifetime. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, me trying to pretend like I suck at golf. It's going to be my best performance since I don't know what movie he referenced. I will say, I do think when Dillon does struggle, he does struggle with the snap hook. I do as well.
Of course.
So I think he just started hitting some snap hooks. But for the first few takes, he's trying to hit a bad shot and he just starts hitting like 280-yard baby draws. It's like, Dillon, that's like, you're in A position. He's like, I know, man. I can't help myself. What am I supposed to do? And after a while, he got it. And I thought it was really funny when Brady played. What was that? Was it the Pebble Beach, the AT&T, when he hit that dribbler?
Yeah.
And he tweeted out to to Kevin Dillon. I was like, Johnny Drama was right. These clubs must have been off the rack.
That's the line that always, I still to this day use that line where it's like, what is this, custom? Mine's off the rack.
It's just but there's so many funny lines. Even like even like Wahlberg telling him like, I don't want to take your SAG pension here. It's just so much funny stuff going on that really also helped fuel golf for me. And I think even some of our younger fans who didn't really care about golf maybe got them a little curious for golf.
Yeah, Drama had to put the left miss in play to get that scene down. Also, I wish the Giselle line could have, it lasted for about 15 years. And
it did hold up, but now that line, all shows have their things that don't age so well. So that line's gone. But also, my character driving around, smoking weed, calling Jamie Lynn. Like, it just was such a fun, and now you see such fun versions of this with YouTube golf. I'm pretty much obsessed with most of the YouTube golf content creators out there. But because I think what they capture so well, and I think it's what we captured in a scripted form, was like, you just wanted to be in that foursome. It's really, you just wanted to be on the course that day because it made golf look fun and not some kind of stuffy sport.
Yeah, and you've jumped headfirst into that YouTube golf world between, like we talked about before, Scratch and MGM, teaching Stableford with DJ Khaled. You're playing golf. You and Kevin Connolly did something for the Players Tribune last year, playing at the Turn 2 Foundation event. You're popping up, playing in all sorts of, everyone wants you now as a guest on on their YouTube golf show. What do you enjoy about watching those content creators? Because I imagine there are some people in the acting world that are a little bit resistant to the rise of YouTube right now.
Yeah. I used to pride myself on trying to read the tea leaves of what's the next platform or format. That's why I was so early in on pods. I started my pod back in 2012, I just never had enough time to fully dive into the YouTube space. The fact that there's so many great, I could list 5 of them that I watch regularly. It's pretty much all I watch. 5 great YouTube golf channels that, again, what I really think they captured so well is the lifestyle, but also the friendship camaraderie of, to me that, there's nothing better than being with your 3 buddies, having a foursome out there playing golf. So I wish I would have had, I don't want to call it a regret. I knew YouTube, obviously I'm not trying to say I'm smart, but everyone knew YouTube don't resist it. Even the old heads in Hollywood who have resisted it have now come around. Believe me, I deal with some of them when I pitch stuff for YouTube. They're like, wait a minute, YouTube? I'm like, are you really going to still say YouTube like it's not the biggest? And I think Matt Bellany on the Town podcast released apps and platforms that most time spent, and YouTube is still ahead of Netflix for that matter. So, but yeah, I think it's in such a good place, and it's a good antidote to some of the PGA Tour stuff. But I'm a big believer. I think all this could be fixed up and organized, and golf is just a lot of fun. I mean, that Players tournament proved it. I think just this past couple of weeks back. So.
I'd love to talk to you about that, because you were tweeting about the Ryder Cup a few weeks ago, and all of a sudden, I see this. I know that our podcast was coming up, and I see Jerry's got hot takes on who should be the 2025 Team USA Ryder Cup captain. All right, we got to talk about this. So, first of all, where does that come from out of the blue? Was that watching the Players? Was that watching Arnold Palmer? Where did that come from?
Okay. So that came from, and I'm working with this company now, so I'm really. I'm not even bragging for them. I'm psyched to be working with them. Box to Box, who is one of the producers of Full Swing. They also produce Drive to Survive, and they've really done to me, they're the best in the business now at the sports cinematic kind of doc, right? So I'm on my way to a golf trip in Florida with some friends. So I'm living the dream. I'm watching the Players on the plane ride on the way down there. In between, I'm watching Full Swing episodes on my phone, and I'm seeing, I don't want to spoiler alert for everybody, but they tackle the Ryder Cup later on in the season. And I thought it was just so fascinating. And so many people are giving Zach Johnson hell for that performance. And I just start thinking, because, USA got so beat up and haven't won on European soil since, 1993?
1993, yep.
It's got to happen, right? Now, you would think that we're going to beat them up next year at Bethpage, but who knows? They really put together an interesting team. Luke Donald's coming back. So I'm starting thinking, it just goes back to my 2K days too. We love drafting and trying to figure out. It's like, you got to imagine Tiger Woods is going to be the captain at some point, right? Do you want to use Tiger at Bethpage knowing we have all this home course advantage, and we really do? I mean, the New Yorkers they're going to turn out in full. It's going to be hostile territory for the Euros. I'm thinking like, look, get a really solid captain in there for Bethpage, hold the home turf. The real challenge to me is going 2027 when I think it's back in Scotland. We got to win on the road. So I feel like save Tiger and the grit and the mental focus for the road game. That was my hot take. I said Freddie Couples at Bethpage.
Yep.
Or maybe you want to bring Stricker back out, defend the home turf, and then 2027, give me Tiger on the road.
This is an outstanding take. Where I kind of stand on it, and a lot of people, we talked about Phil earlier. A lot of people thought this was supposed to be Phil's time. Not going to be.
No, but you are right to think that it would have been.
So then you've got guys like you mentioned bringing Stricker back. Fred Couples has been the President's Cup captain, never actually the Ryder Cup captain, so you could check that off. Stuart Sink is a guy who I've thought maybe it's going to be his time. He's still competing on the PGA Tour at 50 right now. But then Tiger, the Europeans are going Luke Donald back-to-back right now. So you could throw Tiger out there at Bethpage, ignite the crowd, and then you could send him right back out in Ireland. Because here's the thing about Tiger's personality is some guys would want that home Ryder Cup where you're kind of favored, you have the fans on your side, and Tiger would bring so much publicity. But I think he wants to go on the road because all he cares about is winning. He'd go somewhere with no American fans if it meant he could lead the team to victory.
I mean, not that the guy needs anything else on his resume, but to put on the resume, hey, you were the first, by the time 2027 rolls around, we're almost coming up on 25.
Yeah.
Or 35, 25.
Years.
Yeah. So that would be an incredible thing. Right, if he won at Bethpage, I think it would be like, great. That's cool to put on the resume. You held serve, but yeah, if you could get, I just assume, I don't know, can you commit him to, that back-to-back Ryder Cups? I just don't know. Because he's still going to also try to work his way back to playing. Who knows where he's going to be playing at that point. So I didn't even think about back-to-back. That's a great theory.
He's got to win the first to get the back-to-back. You can't lose and then do it again. But I'll say this, Jerry, because there are some people out there in the golf world who are hating on Bethpage, that they think the New York crowd is going to be too much. And I can't disagree more. All I say is this is going to be arguably the best environment we've ever had in golf. How excited does it make you for the New York fans to be in this already rambunctious Ryder Cup environment?
I don't even know what you mean when whoever it is saying too much. What do you mean too much awesome attitude? And like anytime we saw it too with like, I was at the US Open at Shinnecock, however many years
6 years ago.
6 years ago. That crowd was amazing. And it's the perfect mix of respectful golf fans who know when to cheer and know when to clap. It's not quite waste management, but there's definitely a New York attitude there. And come on, look too much. Look what goes on in Europe. They literally talk during practice waggles. Like, hey, it's not going to be too much. I think we need it to be a little hostile. Look what we went through with the Cantlay and the hat gate situation.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be too much. And for me, as a New York fan growing up, Ryder Cup's pretty much the only other kind of big sporting event I haven't been to at this point. I've been to USO and Augusta, really. I've been to US Open tennis, golf, been to a Super Bowl, been to a World Series game. I've obviously never been to an NBA Finals because the Knicks haven't been there, but I've been to playoff games. I want to sneak in at that Ryder Cup, man. I really want to be there for it.
You're going to check off a lot of boxes in the next 24 months or so with the Knicks going to the finals this year.
If I could hit a Knicks finals and be in a nice spot for the Ryder Cup, I pretty much could retire at that point. I don't need to act anymore.
You've been at a ton of Knicks games this year, which I think embodies the New York fan, and not just the New York fan. We know this being around New York, that there's no team that New Yorkers want to win a title more than the New York Knicks right now. Obviously, that has to do with history. It's been so long. Other teams have done it. I mean, this is going to shake the entire New York metropolitan area if it happens within the next couple of years. But that same fandom, that same sort of, people don't want to come in to play against the Knicks in the playoffs. They don't want to play in Madison Square Garden because the fans are so good and the fans bring it every night. How does that translate to golf? Because to me, New York fans are always going to be real. If you perform, we're going to give you that satisfaction. We're going to respond to that, but we're also going to hold you to that standard. If a guy at the Ryder Cup on Team USA isn't playing well, the fans might, encourage him in a way that is, come on, get your game together.
Well, yeah, and I think a guy who might not have loved it the most, if say that kind of performance, heaven help us, doesn't happen in New York, but if it did, I don't think Zach Johnson would have loved. I don't think not that they, he was hearing some stuff in Rome as well, but they were front running at that point and so far ahead. So I think if he had that kind of deficit at home, I think the New York fans would have really got on Zach Johnson. Definitely a little bit Scheffler, who, didn't really have it, and Brooks didn't really. It just would have been, it would have been rough. But they would have rallied behind Cantlay. They would have rallied behind what Justin Thomas was doing, who was a very controversial pick. I think the New Yorkers would have latched on to Justin Thomas's story for sure, and he played really well. And then our guy Max Homa, just steady. One of my favorite golfers on tour right now, had a really good showing. And Hatgate aside, Cantlay, and if you watch the Full Swing doc, they really show it. He did some unbelievable stuff. Those are really the only takeaways for America in that Ryder Cup.
Well, by the way, his caddy, Joe LaCava, big New York sports guy.
Big New York sports guy.
Wears the Giant shirts under his...
could have been one of my uncles. That's my uncle. That's my Uncle Joey. My Uncle Joey LaCava.
You mentioned Justin Thomas. Did you see last week Justin Thomas hanging out courtside at the Knicks game, working with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson on their swings?
I mean, first of all, Josh Hart, I've known Josh Hart for a little while. Just couldn't think of a better, not only play type, but personality for New York. We were talking about New York fans. Perfect for New York fans. But if those guys golf, I would imagine, I'm trying to think, if I saw Justin Thomas courtside, I'd run up to him way before I ran up to, I don't know, Leo, or name some other actor. I want to talk to Justin Thomas about my swing. I thought it was cool that Justin Thomas came to a Knicks game. I don't know if he knows Brunson and Hart previous.
It seemed like, he was coming in to promote Full Swing on The Late Show, and then he went to a Knicks and a Rangers game. And it definitely seemed like Brunson and Hart, they, sometimes we've seen it. Sometimes players are taking pictures with guys, celebrities after the game, and they're smiling, but you're not sure if they really have it together. They knew exactly who he was. And then Justin Thomas did a video with the Knicks critiquing their golf game, and he took note of it. He said Jalen Brunson was making every putt in the video that he saw, and Josh was missing every, and he's like, Jalen had to put this together, which felt like a perfect Knicks troll of Josh Hart.
Perfect Knicks troll. And look, could you think of a better, talk about, because I've done a lot of press tours in my life. Yep. Is there a better press tour to be a champion PGA golfer promoting a really cool documentary? And hey, you're going to go swing through the late night shows, and then on your way out, you're going to hit a Knicks and a Rangers game and do some content with, because, we speak about the New York fans and the Knicks being, the team. I always say, if the Knicks won a championship, it's worth almost 2 championships anywhere else. That's how starved the fan base is. So that's one of the best PR loops. And I've been doing this a long time. That's the best PR loop you could ever do.
Yeah, well, we're trying to see the Knicks Ryder Cup double coming on up. And Justin Thomas came in. The Knicks, DiVincenzo set the Knicks record, right, for 3-pointers in a game. And then the Rangers clinched the playoff the next night. So I saw someone say, we can't let JT leave. He's just got to hang out at the Garden.
I think he slowly rose the ranks. I don't even know if he's a true diehard Knicks fan. Obviously, we all know our king is Ben Stiller, right? That's our Knicks. Celebrity Knicks fan. I guess I'm considered a celebrity Knicks fan, but
right there.
Ben Stiller's, because he cares so much. But now JT, we like vibes. So, all we need is, JT's a big time Knicks fan now.
But sticking with this topic, I want to know from you, and beyond, like, just because I'm a PGA Tour independent contractor, I want to hear your answer here. How much professional golf do you actually watch? Has playing golf made you watch more over the last few years?
Yeah, so I still watch quite a bit. I have 2 young kids, so,
Mhm.
this is what I tell people who are about to have kids, and especially if they're sports fans, like, you are gonna say goodbye to some things, right? The things I said goodbye to, every single Yankee game, which I
Mm.
used to watch every single Yankee game. Now I probably watch 30 regular season games and just keep up with it. I said goodbye to the UFC and boxing because I cannot stay awake till 11:30 East Coast time for a main event. And unfortunately, I said goodbye to some golf tournaments, right?
Mhm.
A Sunday afternoon to
Yeah.
book that out for 4
Tough.
hours, it's really tough. So, but up until that point, you know, I watched a lot of golf, especially, like, we're all Tiger Woods fans and what he did for golf.
Mhm.
But, I really just, I'm also have gotten big into betting golf. I really enjoy betting golf. I can't wait to bet on the Ryder Cup next year because I just think that's fun ways to, get the team format to make, instead of just picking like top 5, top 10. But I'd say obviously I watch the majors, I watch the players. I try to tune into anything that Tiger is a part of. Yeah, I do think that it does hurt to like not see all the guys in some of
Mhm.
the tournaments that we used to see. I always watch Jack's tournament also because
Yep.
it's in Ohio and I try to support that. I'd say 4 majors, the players, and probably another 3 tournaments I'll turn into. So eight a year with kids. In the past, almost every weekend I'd check in.
So what I'm getting at here is, taking it from from your angle, and maybe there's people higher up than me listening. How can we get more people to watch professional golf? Because so many people are out there playing golf right now. You talk about the YouTube aspect of things. There's different ways of engaging fans now. The content's gotten better. But how do you get people to pay attention who are already playing the sport, especially?
I think one way for me as a viewer, if I'm watching from my couch, I thought that they did a great job with the players. We saw a lot more shots. We saw a lot more golf. I think they're doing great things with cutting to the commercial, but you still get to see what's going on. I think that's a great way to stay connected. Something that I think, and this is kind of what YouTube content has done, and we've, NBA, TNT does it really well. Give me the hot mics a little bit. I'm sure these guys don't want it. I get it. I don't even think they want it in the NBA, but figure out a way and obviously monitor it. If a player says something and in a moment of anger, don't make them look like total crap, but give us a little. I want to hear, they do it sometimes. You hear the caddy player conversations. I just want more of it. And I know that's really intrusive because caddy player conversations, like, there's a lot of strategy involved, but any way we could hear more of the on the course as opposed to just seeing the bouncing from shot to shot, I think would really, really help for me as a viewer. That's one way. And obviously, who knows what's going to happen, but yeah, like, what will we have done to see Rom and Brooks at the players? It just would have made it. I mean, I know it did really well. Would have made it even more. And who knows what happens with that? But those would be the 2 big things.
One day we'll come back. It's like
Right.
when an actor leaves a series and then comes back years later, seasons later.
Well, not again talking about things that would never happen though. But if we borrowed from WWE, and if we ever did get the Live PGA Monday Night SmackDown, give me 3 Live teams and 3 PGA teams, mini Ryder Cup. That would be huge ratings numbers. Of course, business wise, it could never happen, at least right now. But maybe that's where it's going. I don't know. Maybe that's where all this is going. Where one day they could do, the gap year of the
Yeah.
President's Cup and maybe a mini Ryder Cup with the PGA Live guys.
Yeah, there's definitely some lawyers that would have other thoughts.
Oh yeah,
about
no, it's
that.
never gonna. We're talking about things that would never happen. Things that would never happen for 100. Yeah, that would be it.
But I think that's all. No, that's all. Good to try to understand because we're trying to figure out, how to not just get more people to watch golf, but I want to know from you too, how do you make golf cool? I think that you talked about. I think you've talked in the past about golf being such a country club sport when you were growing up, and it still falls in that realm of with tennis as a country club sport. But it's definitely whether it's streetwear in golf right now, whether it's
Yeah.
celebrities like yourself hanging around golf, being at pro-ams, it feels like golf is at least appealing to more people now.
I think that's a great point. That's something else I would put on the list. Because as a short guy with a short torso, I hate tucking my shirt in, right? And I get the chance to play clubs, and they've loosened some of the rules. But just last week, my shirt came semi-untucked, and the marshal drove up and said, "Here we ask the men to tuck in their shirts." I'm like, I get it. You're a club. I'll do it. Dumb rule. Get rid of it. Out. No need. It's a respectful sport. We all respect it. I get it. That needs to go. Bringing music to the golf carts was amazing for amateur scrubs like me, right? But I think it's really cool seeing like Jason Day and Malbin, right? And we all love Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler had as having a tremendous career, but where did we really notice Ricky besides his golf game was also amazing fits that nobody was wearing. And I know players are pretty much free to wear what they want. I'd want the players to spice it up a little bit with the wardrobe. I think could help.
And you were just on Stephen Malbin and J.R. Smith's podcast, and you talked a little bit about that. Maybe a little biased because of their brand, but what do you wear on the course? What do you try to wear? And maybe if you were a PGA Tour player, what would you want to wear?
I definitely would want that Malbin sponsorship for sure. I like Red Vainly. I think makes some really, really good stuff. I love Grayson. I think Grayson has a good balance of like traditional golf, but with a little bit of a flair. So those would be like the three. I'm still waiting to see more Sunday Red stuff before I make judgments. But I would go Malbin or Red Vainly would be, two of the ones I'd be. If Malbin hit me on the shoulder, I'd be like, for sure. But they do a lot of collabs with existing brands. Stephen Malbin said in that episode, he loves all brands. That's why they do collabs. He's not just trying to be like Malbin or bust.
Kith for golf is basically what it is.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you get hit with that Sunday Red call, you might change your mind real fast.
I'm listening. I'm definitely listening, especially if the big man is on the call or pops on the Zoom, the pitch. I'm definitely listening.
Non-golf, what was your favorite turtle outfit?
Oh God. It's so funny because looking maybe like 5 years ago, people would send me stuff on Twitter and Instagram of like, look at these fits, like the long jean shorts, the full sweatsuit shorts, the visors. And then for a minute now that became all back, right? Like that kind of stuff is back. I always the one thing we always butted heads with was I am not a big fan of wearing like team hats that are not the team colors, right? Like if we're wearing a Yankee hat, it's got to be navy blue and white. And Turtle would always match the hat to the shirt to the sneakers. So wearing like a green Yankee hat bugged me, but I had to separate myself. This is not me. This is Turtle. I think the jersey game was strong, right? We saw it in the pilot with the Bernard King jersey early. And then, a Kevin Garnett, McDonald's All-American jersey, a Jeter World Baseball Classic. Like there's a lot of cool. I just would throw it to the jerseys for sure.
That I do recall the green hat and all the different hats that you wore. So that's a lot of self-awareness in terms of because I was going to say my next question was going to be, well, what would Jerry Ferrara have not worn then? So it seems like everything except the green hats was pretty down to what you were wearing at that time.
Yeah, but I always joked around. My brother made this joke where like, famous actors, right? Not saying that I was like a crazy famous actor, but whatever. When the show was in its height, you always see like Leo or someone wearing like the hat low. Like that was my character's uniform. I was more recognizable out in public with a hat than if no one thought I had hair. So me putting on like hair, like it was just going out like this, I was significantly less recognizable when I was a kid than when I would wear like a baseball hat and a hoodie.
Basically, Jay-Z said he made the Yankee hat more famous than a Yankee could, but you were right.
I was maybe number two.
As long as you didn't wear a jersey with the name on the back, you're all good.
Never did that.
What you mentioned, so I think I got your dream event to attend would be the Ryder Cup. It sounds like.
Yes, I just think that, and I would like to do a home and away event. Would be for the full experience, but we'll start with Bethpage.
I'm sure you can get someone to fly you out there to Ireland.
We'll see.
In terms of your dream course to play that you haven't played yet, what is it?
Still never played Pebble.
Really?
Never played Pebble. Even living in LA all those years, never went up north to Pebble. Let's see. Obviously, like Bandon Dunes is one. I want to play Sawgrass. I would say like I want to do like I'm a sucker for the famous courses I grew up watching. You know, I got the chance to walk Pebble. I went to the U.S. Open at Pebble, so I got to see some of its majesty, but never got to play it. So yeah, I mean, kind of cop out answers, but and obviously I'd love to go to Ireland and Scotland and play in Europe.
Well, I think you've got some contacts at TPC Sawgrass around Ponte Vedra. If you ever want to jump
I used to have a lot of I'm an old dad now, man. I'm not cool in the scene anymore. Like you're out there in the streets. You know, I'm not out there in the streets anymore.
One thing, when you were out there, Wayne Gretzky, there's a great golf story that you have with Wayne Gretzky. What is it?
It's this friggin' Kevin Connolly guy, man. I swear, I told you he hole in one on the golf simulator. We get invited to golf with Wayne Gretzky, who is a fan of the show, or so we said, right? Invites all of us out there. We have 2 foursomes and we jump at the opportunity. Doug Ellen, I think, wasn't even really golfing back then. He like crammed in 3 days of golf to get ready for this. I don't think he's really even golfed before. Connolly, hardly ever. So we go. And first thing, like you're teeing off, right? And Gretzky played with us for like the first 9 holes and then we switched out. Gretzky's like standing right like off to your right on the tee box looking like it's the most intimidating tee shot in golf, where even if you're like lining up your shot and look up for a second, it's like Gretzky's eyeing me down right now. So anyway, round's going great. Everyone's having fun. We get to, I don't remember what hole it was, but Kevin Connolly hit a good drive. He's 99 yards out. And
poetically.
And Gretzky, look, it's his club. We're playing his club. He's not really waiting for us to hit. He's already on the green, lining up his shot. He's kind of standing on the green. Connolly hits a pitching wedge. Thing takes 2 hops and goes right in the hole. Gretzky puts his arms up. Can't wait for Kevin to get to the green. He's hugging him. Takes the ball out for him. Just like this unbelievable. We rechecked with the caddy. How far did you have it? 99 yards. And Gretzky signed the ball 99 from 99. And I'm sure Connolly still has that ball. But think about it, to hole out with Wayne Gretzky standing by the flag. That's one of the coolest
from 99 yards.
From 99 yards. It's just you couldn't write it better. So Connolly has 2 of the more famous shots in Entourage history.
Wait, what? Well, 2 things. One, to follow up, was he wearing any Islanders gear when he did this in front of Gretzky?
No. We were in country club attire, shirts tucked in. No one's hat was back. No, yeah, we were on our best behavior. Our goal was like, let's not sever this relationship completely. I don't even think anyone was really drinking heavily. We were like, we were playing it real safe.
But you said 2 shots. What's the second shot?
Well, the hole in one on the simulator and then holing out in front of Gretzky. So those 2 shots alone, and then Dillon's snap hook making himself look like a bad golfer.
All right, there's still time. You got to figure something out to get yours in.
What do I do? I mean, maybe I get a hole in one. I did have okay. You mentioned the Jeter for a second. Yep. First of all, I want to talk, if I can, borrow your airwaves. Great event for his Turn 2 charity. Like, they've really helped so many kids. The event that they have is unbelievably fun. And then as a kid who grew up with baseball as his favorite sport, you're there, and it's Tino Martinez, Jeter, Posada, Ken Griffey Jr., like all these baseball legends. And they have this thing that they do where at the end of a round, all the celebrities that are there, and everyone's there, but like the celebrities try to, do a closest to the pin. And my heart's racing because you're all lined up in the circle, and then they just, they call, I think Angie Martinez was hosting it. They call your name and you go and you're hitting a shot in front of all the Fred McGriff, all these people. Would there be a better hole-in-one scenario? I played it out in my mind. They call my name. It's like 140 into the wind. So I got like a nice little sawed-off 8-iron I'm hitting probably because it's really 30, 20 miles an hour wind. And you hole out in front of, I had a dream where Jeter and they just hoist me up and there's drones filming it everywhere. We all run down to the green and take out the ball. I think that would be one of the number one scenarios to have a hole in one.
You get like lifted up like your Mariano at the end by Jeter.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I think they're having it again this year, and that's going to be on my mind. I'm going for it.
You got to get that invite as long as you possibly can.
Oh no, we are all Connolly, Dillon, and I. We know, again, similar to the Gretzky thing. We got to run this for 20 years. This is the greatest trip of all time.
Who'd you play with the last time?
We got paired. So they paired Connolly and I, and we played with two people who obviously donated to the charity to be there. And then the third day or the second day, it was me, Connolly, a charity person, and Rob Riggle, who's got a nice, solid game on him. Rob Riggle.
Yeah, he
pretty
loves
straight.
golf.
Yeah, hits it pretty straight.
He talks about it all the time. I want you to keep borrowing my airwaves because you teased to me, at least before we started, you got a lot in golf coming up. You got a lot of things that you're working on. I don't know what you can share. You alluded to box a little bit. What are you doing in the golf space coming up?
Well, something we're doing with box to box. There will be golf played. I can't say a ton about it, but there's other sports involved. We'll say that. And then this other thing I'm working on, again, real early, I just will say it's in the golf YouTube space. It's all I could say. And then I have a sneaky side project that I almost want to talk to you about off when we close the mic down. Again, it's not that I'm being super secret. All this stuff could go absolutely nowhere. That's why I don't want to hype it up too much. And like, whatever happened to that show? Yeah. So I'll give you more when it's final. But just to give everyone a sense of how long this stuff takes, all this stuff's been months in development. And still we're not over the line yet. So that's how, whenever you see any TV show or movie or even some of this golf content on YouTube, it's months and months of planning and thinking and not even knowing how it's going to perform. But when we shut the mics off, I do want to pitch you something.
Did you think Entourage was going anywhere?
I didn't in the first season. I was just terrified to get fired. Like, didn't want to get fired. My nightmare wasn't going to wake up and be like, Ferrara sucks. Get him out of here. Let's get Jonah Hill in here real quick. And then, HBO always made you kind of wait in between seasons before they announced the pickup. Nowadays, if a show's successful, they announce the pickup after the first episode airs. They didn't do that. It wasn't until really like season 3 and we started getting nominated for awards, and that's where I'm like, all right, I got some real job security. And when you started seeing like people on Sports Center shouting victory and thinking that Meta World Peace punched me in the face at Malice in the Palace, it's like, this is translating culturally to something. And this is way before social media. I often think like, what would have been if Entourage would have started while social media was around? We were ending as social media came into the picture, Entourage would have been a great social media show.
From a golf perspective, let's say you brought Entourage back for a season. What golfer would you want as a guest? I assume you'll say Tiger, so we'll say Tiger and one other.
We're taking Tiger out. He's the obvious answer all the time. I would like a JT and Spieth kind of episode would be fun. Obviously, Homa's my guy. I love Max Homa. And someone who my friends and I, we discovered, because you cover it deeply, we just kind of went on the deep dive because we fell in love with his name of Maverick McNeely. What a guy. Great run at the Players. And is there a better golf name besides Shooter McGavin than Maverick McNeely, who also has like a pilot's license? It's incredible.
Has a pilot's license, grew up around the Bay Area. He's a California guy. This seems like something you guys can make happen.
Yeah, but I think Scheffler would be good. And oh my God, why am I forgetting his name? The dude who just won a few weeks ago,
Jake Knapp.
Well, great story. LA guy. Bouncer. I just think that's for sure. He would actually probably be the most likely candidate.
There's a Joel Damon world here too. There's
Definitely
also an entire storyline where Mark Cuban tries to get, Jerry wrapped in a whole like live golf sort of, not Jerry, tries to get Turtle wrapped in a whole sort of investment. But that can be for, a spinoff season.
Yeah.
Jerry, last thing just here, Tiger, you mentioned off the top, how much he meant to you. What can you say about, Tiger Woods, maybe his effect as someone who's been a golf fan for you over the last couple decades?
I mean, to me, he made golf transparent. What I mean by that is the showing of emotion. He is someone too that we really heard a lot of the caddy banter. They hot
Mhm.
mic'd him quite often. The getting mad when you would hear the click of the photograph when he
Yeah.
was swinging. It really was the showing of emotion for me, and then watching that greatness. Uh, it hit us at such a time. There's a couple of paparazzi pictures. We were always filming at Earth Cafe with Entourage, right? To the point where my buddies, when they were visiting from Brooklyn, like, we want to go to Earth Cafe. I have to say, it's not really. We actually stack it with 90% women. It's not really like that. But there's like the paparazzi would always be there and take pictures of us because it was right on like Melrose. And that run he had on the one leg against Rocco Mediate, right? That which bled into the Monday. This
Mhm.
was so long ago that we had the mini TVs with the antenna, and in between takes, we were all, even people who weren't golf fans, running to like a shaded area so we could see the screen, watching that Monday round of Tiger on one leg. I mean, for me, he was definitely a big part of why I started watching golf. And it really, to me, was obviously the greatness, but the emotion that he showed. I never knew golf was like that. I thought golf clap, right? You
Yeah.
hit a big putt, golf clap, gentlemanly. And not that it was disrespectful what he was doing, but to me, he was more of an athlete that I grew up watching as a kid than any other golfer at the time.
And how does Tiger connect with the course that really you started playing golf on?
You've heard this before?
I've heard this story, yeah.
So I grew up, Bay Ridge, Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. The main public course there is a course called Dyker Beach, which is nestled near the Belt Parkway by the Verrazano Bridge in like South Brooklyn, where I grew up. And it's one of the most played public golf courses in the country. It's a 5.5 hour round, no matter what time you're playing it. And it's a fun track to play when it's in good shape. And the legend was there's an army base there, Fort Hamilton Army Base. I have no idea if this is true. This could be the most false thing you'll hear today. But the legend goes that Earl Woods, military man, was once stationed at Fort Hamilton Army Base, which I don't even know if that's true. And that some of Tiger's early rounds with Earl was at Dyker. And in true Brooklyn form, we claim Tiger Woods as being from Brooklyn now. Just like MJ was born in Brooklyn but grew up in North Carolina, MJ's from Brooklyn. Tiger Woods is from Brooklyn. We claim him now, even if that story is not true. If he played 3 rounds at Dyker when he was a kid, that's our Brooklyn guy. So Tiger Woods is a Brooklyn guy.
Now on the tee from Brooklyn, New York, Tiger Woods. That's what we're going to hear.
And you know who would love that? Bethpage during the Ryder Cup. And maybe he should be the captain there. Maybe. The New York roots.
That's what we'll leave it on. We're going to get a Knicks championship. We're going to get a Ryder Cup championship in New York, and Jerry's going to be right there, front row for both over the next 2 years. Jerry, where can the people find you coming on up?
Just mainly on Twitter, yelling about, or X, whatever it's called, yelling about the Knicks, and Instagram. It's just my name. That's the best place. And, happy for you, dude. I've enjoyed watching your whole career to this point. I feel like I have early Jeff Eisenband stock, and I'm holding it. It's a long hold, and I think you're doing great stuff. Keep up the good work. And, just continue to talk golf, man. We need more of it.
A 2018 Knicks opener. Knicks were playing the Hawks. You were sitting courtside. I'll tell this story now. They show you on the screen, and I turned to my now fiance. We were on like a 7th date at the time, and I totally flexed. And I'm not proud of this because it was kind of a name drop, but I was like, watch this. And I DM'd you something like, I'm at the game too. And you responded, and now we're getting married. So I give you some credit for my marriage.
Well,
Jerry.
I'll speak at the wedding if you need me to. Just let me know. I'm available.
Jerry Ferrara, thanks for being on Eyes on Golf.
All right, man.
Thanks so much to Jerry for that. That was awesome. I mean, I knew I wanted Jerry on this podcast. I couldn't have imagined it going as well as it did. I couldn't have imagined him being so generous with his time and stories as he was there. So hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I did, because I wish I could do it again. It was that good. It was that much fun. So thank you, Jerry Ferrara. Thank you to our production staff, Sam, Tyler, everyone involved in putting this together. We're putting up so many of these videos out in the social media sphere. Hopefully maybe making some buzz around them. If you like what you heard today, please feel free to subscribe, follow at Eyes on Golf, EISONGOLF. I am Jeff Eisenband at Jeff Eisenband, JEFF. EISENBAND. BAND. Until next time, thanks for listening to Eyes on Golf.